creative designers, welcome again to my channel. In case you are new here, my name is Gate, and if you are no subscriber, thank you so much for tuning in. Today I'm going to be showing us how to cut and sew this beautiful bubu kaftan. So without further ado, let's jump straight into today's video. So to start with, remember the Ankara fabric actually comes in length 45, which is way shorter than the length we need here. The length I'm working with is length 60 inches, okay? So you're going to be folding your Ankara lengthwise by 4, okay? Next, you will include or impute your neck width. The neck width I'm working with is 3 by 1 for both the front and back. Actually, my camera cut that out. I'm so sorry. Next, I'm going to impute my shoulder slope, which is 1 inch. So from the shoulder I'm going to be imputing the sleeve opening. So the sleeve opening I'm working with is 14 inches from the shoulder slope, okay? 14 inches. Now, this includes the joining allowance, okay? If you want yours to be 13 inches, that is totally fine. And if you want it to be 12 inches, it depends on how wide you want it to be, okay? Now you're going to be imputing the same 14 inches from the starting point. Well, you may not impute this, but I just imputed this just to serve as a guide, okay? So you're going to be imputing that 14 inches from the starting point. But remember, we actually came down by 14 inches from the shoulder slope. So you will just discover that these lines won't match up. So all you just need to do is to connect the 14 inches sleeve opening you imputed before. Just mark a straight line across so that those points can match up. The next line up here that I'm imputing is actually my bust point. Okay, so my bust point is 12 inches. Next, I'm going to be imputing my bust divided by 4. So the bust divided by 4 plus an extra 5 inches is what I have here. The bust divided by 4 plus an extra 5 inches. That is what I have here. Can you see? So I have about 15.75 or so. So here I noticed that it was 4 inches, which is way smaller than what I wanted. So I made it bust divided by 4 plus an extra 5 inches. That is what you want to impute here. So you will take that measurement all the way down to the end of the dress, okay? So wherever your gown length go to, just impute your bust divided by 4 plus 5 inches. Remember, this does not have any, contouring. Is a free gown, okay? So I'm just going to take that measurement all the way down to the end of my gown, okay? So I'll take that measurement all the way down. Remember, the length of the gown I'm working with here is 60 inches plus 2 inches for joining allowance or for the hemline, okay? So next, you're going to be connecting those points together just like so to form a straight line. So you connect those points together like so to form a straight line. Now, when I was done joining these, I discovered that if I bring in the curve from my nipple point, it's going to be way shorter. So what I just did was to reconnect that curve, okay? Remember, it's a cut together sleeve. So I reconnected that point from the 14 inches line. So the first curve we have at the top is actually a mistake, okay? So you're going to be connecting the curve from your 14 inches line, okay, from your sleeve opening to meet up with the straight line you have there. Just watch what I'm doing in the video, you will understand, okay? Next thing I did was to cut out all that I have here. So like I said, I actually cut both the front and the back the same way. So now it's time to do the front alteration. Remember, the front part actually has a deep v-neck. So I will take out one piece from the fabric I cut out. So one piece is going to serve as the back, while the other piece is going to serve as the front. Now the back neck width is 3 inches by 1 inch, while the front neck width is 3 inches by 9.5 inches. Now take a look at the way I'm slanting my measuring tape. Remember, it's a V neckline. So from my neck width, I'm just going to impute the 9.5 inches. So I'm going to slant it in such a way that it ends exactly on 9.5 inches, so that by the time I join together, everything will end up being 10 inches. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, okay? So I'm going to connect those dots together to my neck width using a slanted line. just like so. Now, after you've done that, go ahead and cut that out. So at the end of the day, this is exactly what the neck width is going to look like. I mean, the neckline is going to look like. So remember we said it's a deep V, okay? It's a V neckline. So this is what it's going to look like at the end of the day. So here is the front. Now the next thing you want to do, of course, is to bring in the plain fabric you want to use for the front design. Here I'm making use of doll face bridal satin. So you want to be sure that the plain fabric you want to use is long enough to cover up for the half length of your client or yourself. So I discovered this was way too short, so I had to fold it the other way around. Okay. Another thing is I want the shoulder line to stop. I want the plain fabric to stop exactly on the shoulder tip. Okay. I want it to stop exactly on the shoulder tip. Now remember, the shoulder measurement for my client is 15 inches divided by 2, that's 7.5. And we've already taken out the neck width, so I'm just going to mark out the shoulder width. Now remember I said is the shoulder divided by 2, so 15 divided by 2 will give me 7.5 inches plus an extra half of an inch for turning it in. Remember, we are going to be sewing this directly on our fabric. So now I'll cut out the neckline. You have to pin this down. Just cut out the neckline as if you're cutting a facing actually. Cut out the neckline and also cut out the shoulder width. Okay, I'll turn this over so to show you exactly what I mean. Remember I said make sure your plain fabric is long enough to cover up for your half length, because I want this to stop exactly on my half length measurement. Okay, so the half length measurement for my client is 18 inches plus half of an inch for joining at the shoulder area plus another half of an inch for joining the hem of this plain fabric. So altogether I have 19 inches. Okay, so the front measurement is 18 inches, or the half length is 18 inches, half inch for joining at the shoulder line and half inch for hemming the plain fabric. Okay, so now we have 19 inches. And also I told us I want this to stop exactly on my shoulder tip. Okay, so I have 4.5 inches for the shoulder tip plus half of an inch for joining or for turning that part of the shoulder. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is to connect those points together just like so to form a straight line. So I'm going to be cutting out that excess as we won't be needing it. Okay, so I'll cut that out, and this is exactly what we will be using. Now remember that this will be on the front part or the right side of your fabric. Okay, so now this is what you're going to do. You're going to take this to your pressing table and just press in about half of an inch. Okay, you press in about half of an inch, but before then I thought to show us how to cut the front design. Now you're going to put your fabric on bias. Creative designers, if you don't put your fabric on bias, you're going to make mistake. In fact, there's no way you'll be able to cut the front design. That is another trick to getting that design. Okay, so you want to put your fabric on bias. After putting it on bias, then you're going to place the plain fabric on the main fabric you want to use. Now remember, the main fabric is actually cut placed on bias, so you place it on it and then determine the width of your stripes. Okay, so the stripes I'm making use of is 3 inches wide. By the time I fold in on both parts, I will be left with 2 inches. Okay, so I will just connect those points together. Okay, now this is the one I cut out and I thought to show you what it's going to look like. Now remember I said if you don't put your fabric on bias, you will not be able to get that design accurate. In fact, it's not going to work. So make sure your fabric is put on bias before you start cutting out the exact shape you want for the stripes. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out that shape, as that is exactly what I will be working with. So like I said, make sure your fabric is placed on bias and then place the plain fabric, making sure that the center front of the plain fabric aligns with the folded part of the bias fabric. Okay, so now I've already gone ahead to cut out my stripes and this is what I have. Can you see how beautiful that turned out? Now I cut out about 2 pieces for this 3 inches wide. So now what I'm going to do next is to take this to the pressing table and then I'm going to be folding in half of an inch. Now this will help us to join this perfectly when it's time to join. Okay, so you're going to take this to your pressing table and then you fold in half of an inch for both the upper part and the lower part. Okay, so you also want to make sure that the stripes you cut out is long enough to cover up for the edges of your plain fabric. Can you see the part I folded in? And on the upper part, I gave it a tiny notch so that it will be easier for me to work with. So you want to repeat the same thing for yours, okay? So now the next thing you're going to do is, of course, to determine how you want it to stay on your plain fabric. So I'm just going to be arranging this. So here I'm pinning down the stripes on the plain fabric just to give me the desired design that I want. After pinning this down, you head straight to your sewing machine and sew it down with tiny stitches about 0.25 inch. Also make sure that the stripes get to the end of your plain fabric, as you'll be joining this directly to your main fabric, and this is what the wrong side looks like, looking very beautiful. Okay, so now, creative designers, it is time to attach this to our main fabric. Now remember, this is going to be on the right side of the main fabric. So the design is going to be exactly on the right side of the main fabric. So in order for us to achieve that flawless look, you're going to make sure that the right side of the plain fabric with the stripes is exactly on the wrong side of the main fabric, such that by the time you join them together and turn it to the other side, the right side of the plain fabric is going to be facing the right side of the main fabric. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So the markings I made on this fabric was actually on the right side, not on the wrong side. Okay, so now I'm going to pin those plain fabric. I'm going to pin the plain fabric to the main fabric just like so. Also make sure the strategic points are aligning, the center front is aligning with the center front of the main fabric. Then you go straight to your sewing machine and join that together with 1/2 inch. Okay, so now I'm done joining, and this is what I have. Can you see how beautiful that turned out? Make sure you give the center front a tiny notch, as this will help the fabric to relax more for you, and then the V shape will come out more beautiful. Okay, then give this a tiny notch around just so that the neckline can relax. After notching the part, the next thing you want to do is to turn it over to the right side. Okay, so we want to top stitch on this. Now to top stitch on this, you're going to be top stitching on the main fabric. Now the main fabric is serving as the lining fabric, so place everything together, make sure it is laying on the main fabric, and then top stitch on the main fabric. This way it's going to relax for you. Okay, at this point, I was done joining. The next thing you're going to do is to top stitch on the part you folded in earlier. Give this a very nice press, and this is what you're going to have. I also went ahead to serge the rough edges because I want this to have a flawless look, of course. For the back part, I attached a facing, so the facing is actually 3 by 1 inch, so you know how to cut your facing. I also serged the shoulder line of both the front and the back. Now it's time to join the front and back together, and here you're going to be placing the right side of the front part to the right side of the back part, and then you're going to flip the facing for the back part on top of the front part, just like I'm doing in this video. Now what the reason why I'm doing this is to give it a flawless finish. You want to give it a professional finish. Okay, but if you don't want to do this, you can join directly. It doesn't matter. Everything will still come out nice. But here I'm flipping the facing over so that I will have a flawless finishing. So now when you're done joining this together, go ahead and stitch it down by 1/2 inch. At this point, I was done joining. And this is exactly what I meant by flawless finishing. You don't want the stitches to show, actually. I think it's more beautiful that way. Now it's time to join the sides together. So place the two sides together. I know you may be thinking we will need to put our turn up, but it's not yet time to put the turn up. So I'm going to be showing you the new way of joining your turn up without the stitches showing eventually. Okay, so you want to put the sides together and then you join them together with 1 inch. I added pockets to this dress because that was what my client wanted, and it's not part of this tutorial. So if you don't know how to fix a pocket, maybe I'll make a video later on that. Okay, so now I also wanted to have a side opening, so I'll be measuring about 12 inches from the hemline, and from that 12 inches I'll just join all the way to the arm area. Okay, by 1 inch. So at this point I was done joining, and it's time to fix our turn up. NEPA don't carry light. For those that don't understand pidgin, the power has been interrupted, so please manage the lightning. Okay, so now the next thing you're going to do is to measure the width of your sleeve. Okay, so you want to measure what you have left on the sleeve opening. So here I measured and I have about 12 inches. Can you see? So I have about 12 inches wide. 12 inches multiplied by 2, of course, will give me 24 inches. And this is what I'll be using to cut out the turn up. Okay, so for the turn up, I'm making use of my black bridal satin or doll face. So I'm going to measure from the midpoint, and the midpoint was actually joined together. I'll measure out 24 divided by 2. Remember, it's on 4, that's 12 inches. Next, I'm going to add an extra 1 inch to that. The extra 1 inch I'm adding to it is for joining, okay? It's the seam allowance, okay? So I'm going to be adding extra 1 inch. So at the end of the day, I have 13 inches. So I'll connect the 1 inch line together just like so, and then I will cut it out. After cutting it out, this is exactly what I have. So I will head straight to the sewing machine and join it on that 1 inch part, because this is actually the seam allowance. Now you're going to place the right side of your turn up, the right side now, to the wrong side of your main fabric, to the wrong side. So you place it in just like so. You're going to be fixing it from inside out. Make sure the center front is also aligned. I mean, the shoulder line is aligning with the shoulder line of the main fabric, okay? So you pin it down together just like so. From the inside now, just watch what I'm doing in the video. You pin it all round. Can you see? So you go ahead and pin that down all round. Pin everything down just like I'm doing in the video. Okay, make sure you pin the strategic points down. Now after pinning, you head straight to your sewing machine and join by half of an inch. By the time you are done joining, turn it over to the right side. Now this is how you get a flawless finish without your stitches showing on the wrong side. Okay, so you flip it over to the wrong side, to the right side, and then you stitch on it by 0.25 inch for both sides now. And at the end of the day, we are almost done. The next thing you're going to do is to finish up your hemline. And that brings us to the end of this beautiful tutorial. And at the end of the day, this is what we have. Can you see how flawless and beautiful this looks? Now you can take a look at the inside. Can you see how beautiful that turned out? So creative designers, please do not fail to subscribe in case you've not done so. Give this video a thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, subscribe if you've not, and also turn on your notification bell so you can always get notified every time I post a new video. And please share this video with your loved ones. Okay, and here is my client. You can see how beautiful this turned out. Okay, I enjoyed creating this video with you, and I hope you did too. See you in my next video. Bye.